Hello, everybody, and welcome to the final video to preview NFL free agency before it officially gets underway on Monday, March 10th. And yeah, free agency is right around the corner. It's the final position group to do the secondary players, two corners, two safeties. So before diving into it, I want to quickly say if you're new, subscribe, greatly appreciated. Leave a like, you know the whole drill. So with that being said, let's dive into it with talking about the first player, DJ Reed, previously of the New York Jets. Going to be entering his age 29-ish season by the time the season rolls around, his 8th year in the league. And it's kind of a shock that DJ Reed won't be returning with the Jets. Him and Sauce Gardner had a good combo, was a good combo for them. But it does seem like they're going to be parting ways, and through that, he's set up for a pretty big payday. The expected value, according to Spotrac, is roughly a 4-year, $15 million deal, give or take a few hundred thousand. And it is a deal that DJ Reed has definitely earned in some capacity. He hasn't been the best ball hawking corner of the past few years. In his time in New York, he's only had 2 interceptions grabbed, but he can defend the pass well. 11 pass deflections last year, and a total of 32 in his time in New York. But it's a case of just simply he's a solid corner two to pair with Sauce Gardner, but by himself, not a whole lot. I mean, even this time in Seattle, he only had 4 interceptions coming in those final 2 years he played there. It's just an overall like the ball doesn't get thrown his way a lot, so a lot of it does go into that side of things, and a lot of it and that plays a role into it. But I don't know. I mean, he's solid. He's worth the 15 mil a year, but don't expect him to be like a game changing corner for any given team. He's a really good corner too. And depending on who you might ask, giving up that much money for a corner two might be too much. But I think it's just fine for someone of DJ Reed's caliber, especially because you know you're going to be getting some pretty solid seasons out of him. Yeah, Pro Football Reference and their AV, the approximate value, he was a consistent 5 AV player during his time in New York. So again, you're going to get a pretty damn solid player out of him nonetheless. So the other corner, we're going to keep with the AFC East, talking a lot of the AFC East today for this. Rasul Douglas is a free agent from the Buffalo Bills, previously the Green Bay Packers before then. And he's going to be entering his age 31 season by the time the season rolls around, his 10th year in the league. And he's expected to sign a 3-year, roughly $12 million deal. And I'm not sure if he's worth all of that. He's a solid corner, don't get me wrong. The second half of the season last year in 2023 was pretty damn good. Also, his 2023 as a whole was pretty damn good, having 5 total interceptions. But his time in Buffalo last year was definitely a lot to be desired, considering what they were hoping to get out of him. He played in 15 games, no interceptions, only 5 pass breakups. Did force a fumble, but for the most part, wasn't doing a whole lot. But at the same time, the ball wasn't really being thrown his way a whole lot. As Buffalo's defense as a whole was a pretty solid defense, all things considered, and they played the pass well when needed to. And again, another player with he had the approximate value of a 5 for pretty damn good value. Another where a pretty damn good corner too. So do you want to give up the 12 million a year for Rasul Douglas or the 15 for DJ Reed? Nonetheless, I mean, Rasul Douglas is more so of a ball hawking corner, but he didn't really get the chance to show it last year, and we'll see how it goes from there. But I do think that again, you can't go wrong with either DJ Reed or Rasul Douglas to be your corner too. I might lean a little bit more so towards Rasul Douglas, but at the end of the day, if you want a ball hawking corner, you go Rasul Douglas. If you want a corner who the ball doesn't get thrown the ball his way a whole lot, you go DJ Reed. I don't think you can go wrong with either. I'm just leading Rasul Douglas personally, and plus that little bit cheaper of a deal is a little bit more enticing to me. But I do like both of them equally. So the two corners out the way, let's talk about it. It was bound to happen. It was bound to it was bound to happen to talk about Jevon Holland. Miami Dolphin. He's hitting free agency after his rookie contract is expiring. Going to be entering his age 25 season and his 5th year in the league, and he's expected to get roughly 15 million a year on a 4-year deal. I feel bad for what has happened with Jevon Holland's career, because his rookie season was a really damn good year. His rookie year showed a lot of promise, and he built off of it really well in his second year. Back-to-back years of 2 interceptions. He was a tackle machine during 2022. Even played a good role rushing the passer, and was doing a good job just getting in the way and getting some good pass deflections. And then the past 2 years, it just hasn't been the same. He's still putting up good approximate value. He's still doing a decent job at the safety position. But for a team like Miami, I'm not sure if he's worth the 15 million. And McDaniel said it himself, he has earned the right to test free agency. He hasn't been the same ball hawking safety that Miami was hoping to get out of him. And he hasn't made up for it too much with his tackling abilities. In fact, he's kind of declined tackling since 2022. And really he had the worst tackling season of his career last year. He made one really clutch play with that forced fumble against Jacksonville. But for the most part, the rest of the season was just average. And he was coming off of the injury he suffered in 2023, and that does suck. I feel like if he was healthy in 2023, he probably gets extended by Miami after that season, or at least Miami's heavy more so looking towards bringing him back because he probably has a better 2024. But nonetheless, he's going to be in the open market. I do feel like he's worth the 15 million if a team is willing to use him the right way. What that right way is, I don't know. It doesn't seem to be that fit in Miami. I could see him go to Minnesota and team back up with Brian Flores, where he can be utilized as more so of a blitzing safety, and I feel like that style works really good for him. If he's to stay in Miami, it's not going to be at the $15 million a year mark. He would be lucky to get 10 from Miami. Maybe, just maybe, Miami wants to give him 12 and a half, but I would not be a fan of it. But for a different team, 15 is not that bad. He's earned it over his play throughout the entire 4-year deal. Last year was a little bit rough, but I feel like he can bounce back. And the 15-year mark, by the time this contract expires, would probably look like a really solid deal if a team's to give it to him. It doesn't seem like the fit with Miami is going to be there much longer. So now the final guy we'll talk about, we're going to be talking about Vonn Bell from Cincy, and going to be entering his age 31 season next year, his 10th year in the league. And I want to talk about Vonn Bell for a very specific reason. And that is the fact that Cincinnati right now is in a very tough spot, and they're letting a lot of guys go that they probably shouldn't otherwise. And that's not to say Vonn Bell was fantastic last year in Cincy. He played solid from the safety in his role as a safety, but there's definitely room to improve. But part of it is he's getting up there in age, so he might not have that much longer left, and thus, according to Spot Track, he's expected to make the vet minimum of a 1 year one by one deal. And I feel like for a team that is maybe looking for a bridge and a stopgap safety option, Vonn Bell is a pretty solid fit. He's not really known for his ball hawking abilities. He had one interception. He defended 2 passes last year, but he can be a relatively solid tackler. And he could just be a good veteran presence and a good locker room guy for a team that is probably bringing in a safety this offseason. And yes, I am kind of hinting towards me wanting Miami to draft him to that vet minimum. But at the same time, it's any team that's looking to bring him in is going to be getting a pretty good locker room guy and a pretty solid guy overall, who can definitely make his presence felt if given a proper system to do so. And that was really exemplified back in his second year when he had 4.5 sacks. Hasn't really had much of the same production rushing the passer since then, but he can be a pretty solid tackler from the safety role. And of course, he has a little bit of ball hawking capabilities in him, just hasn't really had full opportunity to show it because of the safety position he plays. But with all that being said, I do think Vonn Bell is a pretty solid player. And with that being said, that is it for the preview coverage of free agency. Next Tuesday is going to be a breakdown of day 1 of free agency. So I'll see you all then. And I hope see you all then. See you all next time. Have yourselves a pretty damn good one. Peace.